Captain Haynul stood at the massive viewing window of her starship, watching the glittering spires of the Galactic Games arena grow larger. The space station was enormous, its silver towers reaching out like crystal fingers into the star-filled darkness. Her heart beat faster as she thought about the competition ahead. "Captain, we're ready to dock," said her first officer, Lee Sunwoo, from behind her. "The Games Committee has assigned us Bay 44. Haynul nodded, her silver uniform catching the light from nearby stars. At 7 feet tall, with pale blue skin and silver-white hair, she cut an impressive figure even among her own people of the Celestial Empire. "Very well. Prepare the landing procedures." As their ship glided into the docking bay, Haynul thought about why she had entered these games. The Celestial Empire was known across the galaxy for its advanced technology and sophisticated culture, but many other species saw them as weak, too refined for real combat or competition. She was here to prove them wrong. The docking bay was full of ships from 100 different worlds. Some were sleek and beautiful, others looked like floating fortresses. Haynul saw representatives from the warrior races of the Quantum Dynasty, their red-scaled skin and sharp features marking them as dangerous opponents. After completing the docking procedures, Haynul and Sunwoo made their way to the registration hall. The massive room was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some floated in anti-gravity fields, others walked on multiple legs, and a few seemed to be made of living crystal. "Welcome, Captain Haynul," said a small round robot at the registration desk. "Your credentials have been verified. Please proceed to the Grand Hall for the prize revelation ceremony." The Grand Hall took Haynul's breath away. The ceiling seemed to reach up forever, covered in moving images of past game champions. Thousands of competitors filled the seats, creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Haynul found her assigned place and sat down, noticing that the chair automatically adjusted to her height and body type. "Greetings, warriors, scholars, and champions," a voice boomed through the hall. On the central stage, a hologram appeared showing the game's master, a being of pure energy contained within a special suit. "Welcome to the 10,000th Galactic Games." The crowd roared with excitement. Haynul watched carefully as the game's master began explaining the rules and challenges. There would be tests of combat, strategy, technology, and wisdom. But what really caught her attention was the mention of this year's grand prize. "And now," the game's master announced, "behold this cycle's ultimate prize, a remarkable specimen from a newly discovered world." The center of the stage opened up, and a containment field rose from below. Inside was something Haynul had never seen before, a male human. He stood about 6 feet tall, with black hair and strong features. Unlike most specimens put on display, he didn't look afraid or angry. Instead, he seemed to be studying the crowd with calm, intelligent eyes. "This is a human," the game's master explained, "from a planet called Earth. His name is Kim Do-hyun, a warrior of his people. Humans are a fascinating species. Though they lack advanced technology, they have shown remarkable adaptability and surprising strength." Haynul leaned forward, intrigued. The human wore simple black clothing that showed his athletic build. She noticed how he maintained perfect balance, even when the containment field shifted, suggesting combat training. "To demonstrate the capabilities of our prize," the game's master continued, "we will now show you what makes humans so special." The containment field disappeared, and 4 armed guards surrounded Do-hyun. Haynul expected him to try running or to show fear. Instead, he simply moved into a relaxed fighting stance. What happened next amazed everyone in the hall. The guards attacked all at once, using various weapons and fighting styles. Do-hyun moved like water, dodging, blocking, and striking with incredible speed. He used the guards' own strength against them, turning their attacks into opportunities. In less than a minute, all 4 guards were on the ground, and Do-hyun stood calmly in the center, barely breathing hard. The hall erupted in excited whispers. Haynul heard competitors around her discussing the display. Some dismissed it as a trick, Others were already plotting how to win this fascinating prize for study. But Hanuel had seen something else during the fight. She had noticed how Du Hyun had analyzed his opponents before moving, how he had used strategy instead of just strength. This was no simple warrior. This was someone who thought like she did. The games will begin tomorrow, the games master announced. There will be 7 rounds of competition. Only the strongest, smartest, and most worthy will have a chance to claim this remarkable prize. As the crowd began to leave the hall, Hanuel looked back at the human. To her surprise, he was looking directly at her. Their eyes met across the distance, and she felt a strange connection, as if they recognized something in each other. Then the containment field reactivated, and guards led him away. "Captain," Sun Wu's voice broke into her thoughts. "We should return to our ship to prepare for tomorrow." Hanuel nodded, but her mind was still on that brief moment of connection. She had come to these games to prove something about her people, but now she had another reason to win. She wanted to understand more about this human who fought with his mind as much as his body. As she walked back to her ship, Hanuel heard 2 competitors from the Quantum Dynasty talking. One of them was Commander Yoon Ji-ai, known for her ruthless tactics and impressive win record. "The human will be mine," Ji-ai was saying. "Think of what we could learn from studying their genetic structure, their capacity for adaptation." Hanuel frowned at the way they talked about Du Hyun, like he was just a thing to be studied. She had seen intelligence and dignity in his eyes. Whatever happened in these games, she decided she would treat him with the respect he deserved. Back on her ship, Hanuel began reviewing the competition schedule for the next day. The first round would test their technological skills, something she should excel at. But she kept thinking about how Du Hyun had used strategy in his fight, wondering if there were lessons there she could learn. That night, as she looked out at the stars, Hanuel realized this competition might change more than just her reputation. She had come to prove her people's worth, but perhaps she would also learn something about what truly made someone worthy of respect. The games would begin in just a few hours, and Hanuel felt more determined than ever to win. Not just for her people's honor now, but because she wanted to know more about the human who had shown such remarkable qualities. There was something special about Kim Do-hyun, and she intended to find out what it was. As she prepared for sleep, Hanuel thought about the look they had shared across the grand hall. In that moment, they hadn't been alien and human, captain and prize. They had been 2 minds recognizing each other's strength. Tomorrow, she would begin her journey to prove herself worthy of that connection. To demonstrate the capabilities of our prize, the games master continued, "We will now show you what makes humans so special." The containment field disappeared, and 4 armed guards surrounded Do-hyun. Hanuel expected him to try running or to show fear. Instead, he simply moved into a relaxed fighting stance. What happened next amazed everyone in the hall. The guards attacked all at once, using various weapons and fighting styles. Do-hyun moved like water, dodging, blocking, and striking with incredible speed. He used the guards' own strength against them, turning their attacks into opportunities. In less than a minute, all 4 guards were on the ground, and Do-hyun stood calmly in the center, barely breathing hard. The hall erupted in excited whispers. Hanuel heard competitors around her discussing the display. Some dismissed it as a trick. Others were already plotting how to win this fascinating prize for study. But Hanuel had seen something else during the fight. She had noticed how Do-hyun had analyzed his opponents before moving, how he had used strategy instead of just strength. This was no simple warrior. This was someone who thought like she did. "The games will begin tomorrow," the games master announced. "There will be 7 rounds of competition. Only the strongest, smartest, and most worthy will have a chance to claim this remarkable prize." As the crowd began to leave the hall, Hanuel looked back at the human. To her surprise, he was looking directly at her. Their eyes met across the distance, and she felt a strange connection, as if they recognized something in each other. Then the containment field reactivated, and guards led him away. "Captain," Sun Wu's voice broke into her thoughts. We should return to our ship to prepare for tomorrow. Hanul nodded, but her mind was still on that brief moment of connection. She had come to these games to prove something about her people, but now she had another reason to win. She wanted to understand more about this human who fought with his mind as much as his body. As she walked back to her ship, Hanul heard two competitors from the Quantum Dynasty talking. One of them was Commander Yoon Ji-ai, known for her ruthless tactics and impressive win record. The human will be mine, Ji-ai was saying. Think of what we could learn from studying their genetic structure, their capacity for adaptation. Hanul frowned at the way they talked about Do-hyun, like he was just a thing to be studied. She had seen intelligence and dignity in his eyes. Whatever happened in these games, she decided she would treat him with the respect he deserved. Back on her ship, Hanul began reviewing the competition schedule for the next day. The first round would test their technological skills, something she should excel at. But she kept thinking about how Do-hyun had used strategy in his fight, wondering if there were lessons there she could learn. That night, as she looked out at the stars, Hanul realized this competition might change more than just her reputation. She had come to prove her people's worth, but perhaps she would also learn something about what truly made someone worthy of respect. The games would begin in just a few hours, and Hanul felt more determined than ever to win. Not just for her people's honor now, but because she wanted to know more about the human who had shown such remarkable qualities. There was something special about Kim Do-hyun, and she intended to find out what it was. As she prepared for sleep, Hanul thought about the look they had shared across the grand hall. In that moment, they hadn't been alien and human, captain and prize. They had been two minds recognizing each other's strength. Tomorrow, she would begin her journey to prove herself worthy of that connection. The final day of the Galactic Games arrived with tension in the air. Only 5 competitors remained: Hanul, Commander Ji-ai, and 3 others from different star systems. The morning light from nearby stars filled the arena as they gathered for the last challenges. Today's final trials will test everything you have learned, the Games Master announced. But first, a demonstration from our prize. The crowd watched as Kim Do-hyun entered the arena. This time, there was no containment field around him. He wore the same black maintenance uniform, but now Hanul noticed small details she had missed before. The way he moved with careful precision, how his eyes constantly scanned his surroundings. Our human will demonstrate advanced combat techniques against training robots, the Games Master said. Observe carefully. 20 combat robots surrounded Do-hyun. These weren't like the simple guards he had fought before. These were advanced war machines, each one programmed with different fighting styles from across the galaxy. Do-hyun took a deep breath and settled into a ready stance. The robots attacked all at once. What happened next amazed everyone watching. Instead of fighting each robot separately, Do-hyun turned them against each other. He moved through their attacks like water flowing around rocks, causing the robots to hit each other instead of him. Hanul watched in fascination. She saw how he used the same principle she had discovered with the engine repair. Everything was connected. Each robot's attack became part of his defense against the others. Within minutes, the arena floor was littered with disabled robots, and Do-hyun stood calmly in the center. Now, the Games Master said, your first challenge begins. You must each face 5 of these combat robots. Hanul stepped forward for her turn. As the robots surrounded her, she remembered everything she had learned from watching Do-hyun. She didn't try to overpower them with her superior strength. Instead, she moved like he did, flowing between their attacks, using their own force against them. Remarkable, the Games Master commented as Hanul finished her fight. You show unusual adaptation to human combat styles. Commander Ji-ai went next. She destroyed her robots with brutal efficiency, but Hanul noticed how tired she looked afterward. The other competitors showed various levels of success, but none managed to fight as smoothly as Hanul had. The next challenge was even harder. They had to navigate through a maze while solving complex puzzles and avoiding traps. Hey Newell noticed Do-hyun watching from above again. This time, he was standing near a control panel, his fingers tapping lightly on its surface. Newell smiled as she entered the maze. The tapping hadn't been random. It was a maintenance code, something used by repair crews throughout the galaxy. Do-hyun was telling her to think like a maintenance worker again. Instead of trying to solve each puzzle directly, Newell looked for maintenance access ways and service tunnels. She found shortcuts that others missed, avoiding many of the traps entirely. When she reached the center of the maze, she was well ahead of the others. Commander Ga finished second, but she looked angry. Hey Newell saw her talking quietly with someone near the maze's exit. Money changed hands, and Hey Newell's instincts told her something was wrong. The final challenge would decide everything. Each competitor had to complete a complex mission simulation alone. Hey Newell waited for her turn, watching as others entered the simulation chamber. When Commander Ga went in, Hey Newell noticed more secret exchanges happening in the shadows. Finally, it was Hey Newell's turn. As soon as she entered the simulation, she knew something was wrong. The scenario was much harder than what the others had faced. The computer systems fought against her commands, and the artificial gravity kept changing unexpectedly. Someone had tampered with her simulation. In the past, Hey Newell would have reported this cheating to the game's master. But now she thought differently. What would Do-hyun do in this situation? She remembered how he had turned problems into advantages in his fights. Instead of fighting against the changing gravity, she used it to reach places that should have been impossible to access. When the computers resisted her commands, she found ways to use their resistance to create new solutions. The simulation ended with Hey Newell achieving the highest score of the day, despite the sabotage. As she left the chamber, she saw Commander Gi's face twisted with anger and surprise. "The games are complete," the game's master announced. "Captain Hey Newell of the Celestial Empire is our winner. She will claim her prize tomorrow at the victory ceremony." That evening, as Hey Newell prepared for the ceremony, she received an unexpected visitor in her ship. It was one of the maintenance workers, carrying a message hidden inside a broken scanner. The message was from Do-hyun. "Meet me in Maintenance Tunnel B7 at midnight. What you've won isn't what you think it is." Newell knew she should report this to the game's officials. Instead, she found herself walking through empty corridors late that night, using the maintenance codes she had learned to access the tunnel system. She found Do-hyun waiting in the shadows of Tunnel B7. Up close, without barriers between them, she could finally see him clearly. His eyes held the same intelligence she had noticed before, but now she also saw urgency and concern. "Captain Hey Newell," he said in perfect celestial language, "I need your help. I'm not really a prize to be won. I'm an Earth intelligence officer investigating the game's committee. We have evidence they're using this competition as cover for illegal genetic research." Newell felt her world shift. "You let yourself be captured." Do-hyun nodded. "We needed to infiltrate the games from the inside. But Commander Ga isn't just here to win. She's working with the committee. They're planning to use the winner's claim on me as legal cover to harvest human genetic material for weapons research. That's why you've been teaching me." Hey Newell realized. "You needed someone who would understand." "I watched all the competitors," Do-hyun said. "You were the only one who saw beyond the surface, who learned to think in new ways. I need your help to expose this operation, but it will mean going against your own people's laws about interfering with other species." Newell looked at this human who had taught her so much about seeing the universe differently. She thought about everything she had learned in the past few days about connection, about finding new ways to solve problems. "The victory ceremony is in 10 hours, she said. "Tell me everything you know. We'll find a way to make this right." As they talked through the night in that hidden tunnel, Hey Newell realized that winning the games had given her something far more valuable than a prize. It had given her a chance to prove what kind of person she really was, not just to others, but to herself. The morning of the victory ceremony dawned bright and clear. Hey Newell stood in her quarters, looking at her reflection in the mirror. She wore her formal Celestial Empire uniform, its silver and blue colors shimmering in the light. But her mind was on the conversation she had shared with Du Hyun through the night. "Captain," Sun Woo called from outside her door. "It's time for the ceremony." Hanul took a deep breath. The plan they had made was risky, but it was the right thing to do. As she walked toward the grand hall, she remembered everything Du Hyun had told her about the illegal research, about how the Games Committee had been stealing genetic samples from various species for years. The grand hall was even more crowded than before. Representatives from every major civilization had come to witness the prize-giving ceremony. Haenul saw Commander Ga standing with a group of scientists, their expressions eager and hungry. "Welcome to the victory ceremony of the 10,000th Galactic Games." The Games Master's voice boomed through the hall. "Today, we honor our champion, Captain Haenul of the Celestial Empire." Hanul walked onto the stage as the crowd applauded. She could see Du Hyun being led forward in a containment field, playing his role perfectly. Their eyes met briefly, and she gave a tiny nod. "Captain Haenul," the Games Master said, "you have proven yourself worthy of this remarkable prize. Once you accept ownership, the human will be yours to study, examine, or use as you see fit." Haenul stepped forward to the microphone. This was the moment that would change everything. "I thank the Games Committee for this honor," she began, her voice clear and strong. "Before I accept my prize, I would like to demonstrate something I learned during these games." She pressed a small button on her uniform. Suddenly, every screen in the grand hall came to life. They showed hidden recordings that Du Hyun had collected over months, secret laboratories where genetic experiments were conducted, meetings where committee members planned their illegal research, credits being exchanged for stolen biological samples. "What is the meaning of this?" the Games Master demanded, but Haenul could hear fear in their voice. "The meaning is simple," Haenul said. "I cannot accept a prize that was never meant to be given. Kim Do-hyun is not a specimen to be studied. He is an intelligence officer from Earth, and I am helping him expose your crimes." The crowd erupted in chaos. Commander Ga rushed forward with her guards, but they were met by Earth security forces who had been hiding among the maintenance workers. Do-hyun's containment field disappeared. It had been fake all along, part of his cover. "The Celestial Empire does not support illegal genetic research," Haenul continued, her voice carrying over the noise. "Neither do the other civilizations represented here. We are better than this." Security forces from multiple worlds moved in to arrest the Games Committee members. Commander Ga tried to run but found herself facing both Haenul and Do-hyun. The fighting skills they had learned from each other proved unstoppable together. As order was slowly restored, Haenul found herself standing next to Do-hyun in front of the Galactic Council representatives who had witnessed everything. "Captain Haenul," one of the council members said, "you have broken several laws about interference with other species. However, you have also helped prevent a serious crime. What do you have to say?" Haenul stood straight and proud. "I say that it's time we stopped seeing other species as things to study or use. Earth may be new to our galactic community, but humans like Do-hyun have shown they are our equals in courage, intelligence, and honor." Do-hyun stepped forward. "Earth would like to propose a new kind of relationship with the Celestial Empire and other galactic civilizations, not as specimens or subjects, but as partners." The council chambers filled with discussion. Finally, the head counselor spoke. "Perhaps it is time for change. Captain Haenul, instead of claiming a prize, would you accept a new position? We need someone to serve as liaison between Earth and the Celestial Empire." Haenul looked at Do-hyun, seeing her own hope reflected in his eyes. "I would be honored," she said, "but only if Officer Kim Do-hyun serves as Earth's representative. We have much to learn from each other." In the days that followed, the games were completely reorganized. Instead of competing for prizes, participants would share knowledge and skills. The maintenance tunnels where Hae-Newell and Do-hyun had first truly met became the site of the first Earth Celestial Cultural Exchange Center. One evening, months later, Hae-Newell and Do-hyun stood together in her ship's observation deck, watching the stars. "Did you ever imagine," Do-hyun asked, "when you entered the games, that you would end up here?" Hae-Newell smiled, reaching for his hand. Their fingers intertwined, different in shape and color, but fitting perfectly together. "I entered the games to prove my people's worth," she said. "Instead, I learned that worth isn't about power or technology. It's about being willing to learn, to change, to see the beauty in our differences." Do-hyun squeezed her hand gently. "The best prizes are never the ones we think we're competing for." "No," Hae-Newell agreed, turning to face him. "Sometimes they're much better." As their lips met in a kiss that bridged the gap between their worlds, Hae-Newell thought about how far they had come. She had won more than a game, more than a prize. She had won a future she never knew she wanted, with someone who had taught her to see the universe and herself in a whole new way. Through the observation window, the stars continued their eternal dance, watching over this new chapter in galactic history. The story of an alien woman and her human love had become something greater, a symbol of hope for a future where differences were celebrated instead of feared, where love could bridge the vast distances between stars. And somewhere in the maintenance tunnels of the old games arena, new couples, human and alien alike, were learning to see past their differences, inspired by the story of a captain who had won a prize and found love among the stars.